Well, my name is Chris, and I'm with Mid-Georgia House Buyers, and I've actually owned that company since 2005, so we've been in business as of the date of this video about 13 years. So I wanted to take a few minutes to kind of explain to you guys what it is that we do and why we're here. So if you've got a house you want to sell, like this beautiful little house right here, you know, 2-car garage, whatnot. If you got a house you want to sell, why would you want to call a company like me? Well, what I want to do is take a few minutes and explain to you why you would call me to come and buy your house, in some situations where you wouldn't want to call me to come and buy your house. So if you've got a house like this and you need to sell it or you want to sell it, there's definitely 3 different ways you can take. If you have a house like this, if you have a house that you want to sell, there are basically 3 different options you can take. The first is to sell it with an agent. So you could call somebody like Coldwell Banker or Better Homes and Gardens or somebody like that. The second is you could try to sell it by yourself, or for sale by owner, which is what most people call the second option you could do is what's called for sale by owner, or FSBO. So you could do it FSBO. We just shortened to FSBO. And then the last option is to call me, which is selling it direct to the end buyer. So you could, as the seller, skip the in-between and just go direct to the buyer of your house. So I would be what's called a direct buyer. So what I want to do is take a couple minutes and explain about how these options work when it comes to some different things that you need to consider when it comes to selling your house. First, when it comes to time, we're going to talk about which one's going to take the longest and which one's going to take the shortest. So if you sell with an agent, the good thing about an agent is they have exposure to the MLS. So when they come to your house and they list your house, they're going to put it on the multiple listing service, or the MLS. And when they do that, your house is going to get maximum exposure to all the other agents around the Middle Georgia area. So if you're selling with an agent, the amount of time it's going to take you to actually sell the house, you know, they usually say 3 to 6 months is what they want a listing for. So the amount of time it takes you to sell it, about that 3 to 6 months, is going to be drastically affected by how many buyers are looking for a house like yours at the time. So they say 6 months. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 taking the longest and 0 taking the, like, selling it instantly, we're going to put an agent at about a 5, okay? Because an agent has maximum exposure, but it still takes a little bit of time, all right? Now, if you're selling your house for sale by owner, so if you're selling your house with an agent, then they're going to get maximum exposure to the MLS, but it's still going to take 3 to 6 months to sell your house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the agent a rate about from 1 to 10, what's going to take the longest or the least. The agent's going to be about a 5. Okay, so the agent's going to be about middle of the road in terms of what it takes to sell your house. Now, if you're selling it for sale by owner, which means that you just got a sign in the yard and you're putting your phone number on it, you're wanting people to contact you, then you don't have exposure to the same MLS that the agents have. You don't have exposure to that. You can put it on Zillow and you can put it on Trulia, free websites like that, but it's still not the same exposure as an agent, because you don't have anybody advocating for you to sell that house. So if you're selling for sale by owner, you just better be in for the long haul. I'm going to give that a 9 to a 10 in terms of the amount of time it's going to take you to sell that house. Now, if you're dealing direct with a buyer, so if you deal with me, you call me or you fill out a form on our website and you want me to come look at your house, as long as it's something that we want and it's a house that you need to sell, we're going to be fast. We're going to be a 1. Because with us, you're going to sell usually in 7 to 14 days is how long it takes to send the title package off to the attorney, get the attorney to do the title package and get it back. So we're going to be fast. So I think in terms of time, we're definitely a winner, okay? So now, what about headache? All right, so if you sell with an agent, I'm going to tell you all the things that you're going to have to deal with. Number 1, your agent is going to want you to spruce up the house. You're going to have to clean up the yard, keep it mowed, all that kind of stuff. Your house is always going to have to look nice. So you're going to have some headache here. So we're going to give this a +1 for the headache so far. You used to have to, when you're dealing with an agent or you're selling an agent, you have to deal with buyers that come walking through your house. And because you want to sell your house, you have to deal with those buyers coming in pretty much at their convenience and at your mercy. So we're going to give that another little point for headache. Now, once the buyers start coming through and you start going back and forth, those buyers are going to negotiate with you and they almost never pay full price. So there's another headache you got to deal with. You and your wife, or you and whoever else, your wife and your husband, you know, or if you're the wife, your husband, y'all have got to dealing with the buyers. Even through an agent, it takes time. You got to email back and forth. You got to sign contracts on your email or online or in person. So there's headaches there. All right. Once you guys settle on a number, to buy the house or to sell the house at, then they're going to get involved with a bank. 99 times out of 100, there's a bank involved. Or maybe 95 times out of 100, there's a bank involved. If that's happening, then you're going to have an appraiser come out and take a look at your house, and you better pray that number is right. That's why they're called an appraiser. And then you're going to have to deal with an inspector, okay? And that inspector comes out, and boy, they're going to be a pain, because I promise you, an inspector is paid to find things wrong with a house. Have you ever heard of a home inspection coming back with nothing on it? Me neither. That's because they don't exist. So, if an inspector's coming, you better expect some headaches. All right, after that, once the inspector happens, now you got to deal with the lender. Well, the buyer's going to have to go back and forth with the lender, but a lot of people don't know this. As a seller, you might have to go back and forth with the lender. Let's say you've done some work to the house since you bought it, and you've increased the value of the house. A lot of times the lender will want you to submit documentation to them proving that you've increased the value of the house. So be prepared. You're going to have to deal with that buyer's lender as well. So now you get down to the closing table, and that buyer, maybe they screw something up, and the lender no longer wants to do the loan, or it's going to delay the loan. So now you've got to wait. Well, from the beginning, you've had to wait at least 30 days, sometimes 45. Now maybe you're waiting like 60 or 75 days. Okay? So you're going to have some problems with headaches. If you get to closing, then it's fine and you're done, but you got to go through a bunch of little hoops to get to closing. So for headache, we're going to give the agent a 7. Okay? So what about FSBO? All right, here's the deal. The FSBO is actually more of a pain than dealing with an agent. Now, agents are great people. I'm not saying it's hard to deal with an agent, but when you sell with an agent, this is all the stuff you have to deal with. For sale by owner, it's even worse, because now the people coming through your house, you don't know if they're pre-qualified. So you've got to deal with all this, these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 problems. Now you're dealing with unqualified buyers coming through your house, and it takes you longer to sell the house, so you have to deal with more of them. So if you're selling for sale by owner, you got to deal with all the same stuff that you would have to deal with if you sold through an agent the traditional way. You also have to deal with all the extra stuff that comes through dealing with for sale by owner types of buyers. So I'm going to give this a 9 in terms of headache. This is bad stuff. Now, you call me, you call our company, or you call me. Now, 7 for the agent on this one, a 9 for this for sale by owner on this one. Now, let's say you call me, you call our number 478-953-SELL. I'm going to come out, I'm going to take a look at the house. You and I are going to agree on a price, or maybe we don't. But if we agree on a price, I'm going to tell you this is what we can do, and these are the tools in our toolbox to get this deal done. But I'm not going to ask you to do anything. You don't have to get an appraisal. You don't have to deal with an appraiser, because we're going to pay cash, or we're going to do something where we don't have to go through a bank and get an appraisal. I'm not going to send an inspector and then ask you to fix anything. I'm going to know what it's worth. We're going to send our guys out there to take a look at it. We won't ask you to fix anything. That's the best part about this, is that you don't have to fix anything. You don't have to deal with it. And we're going to be there super fast. We're going to typically be closed in 7 to 14 days. So in terms of headache, I'm going to give us a 1. We're pretty much a 0 on the headache scale. So who wins this one? The direct buyer in a lot of cases. Now, let's talk about money. A lot of people think you get the most money when you sell with an agent, and that can be true. So you sell with an agent, let's just talk about the things you're going to have to pay. All along the way, you're going to have to pay your mortgage payments while you're dealing with the agent, so you're going to have interest money that is lost. And a lot of people say, well, I get to deduct it on my taxes. Well, you get to deduct it, but it's not a credit on your taxes, so you're really losing money paying interest on a loan that you're done with. So you got to deal with the time factor, you got to deal with all the repairs that the agent wants you to make, then you're going to have to deal with the repairs that the inspector wants you to make, and then you got to deal with the negotiations from the buyer when they're not going to pay your full asking price. So, will you get money from it? Yes. Is it going to be a 10? No, we're going to give them about a 7. Okay? Now, you sell for sale by owner. Remember, you still got the same headaches. It takes longer. A lot of people think you make more money for sale by owner. And you can, but you have to consider that you've got 9 to 10 months, or sometimes longer than the 6 months that it takes an agent. You've got all those interest payments, and you've got all these people traipsing through your house that may not be qualified buyers. So, yes, you're going to save a 6% commission. You'll save the 6% commission from here to here, but it's not that much. So I'll give this an 8. All right? Now, here's what's going to blow your mind. A lot of people think that a direct buyer is going to be a 1. You think I'm going to come in and I'm going to pay you 20 cents on the dollar, that I'm terrible at this. That's not the case. That's not how we work. I know you got to sell a house. I know that you typically have some kind of problem with a house and you need somebody to solve it. We're not going to be necessarily the lowest option right here, okay? We're not going to be that bad. I'm going to give us a 6, and let me tell you why. Because I'm not asking you to fix anything. You don't have to pay any mortgage payments because we're going to close in less than a month. You don't have to deal with any of these people. None of this stuff happens. We just come in and say, this is what we can do and this is how we can do it, and then we get to closing. So I'm going to give us a 6. So, okay, why would you want to deal with us? Okay, you'd want to deal with us if you don't have the time, or if you don't want to deal with a headache, or you have the ability to sacrifice a little bit of the equity to do this. Okay, now why would you not want to work with us? Let me tell you. If you have lots of extra time and you have the ability to deal with headaches, like fixing the house, doing those kind of things, then this is your wheelhouse right here. Do this. You know, if you've got the time and you've got a little bit of extra money in cash to put into the house and deal with that, this is your best option. Okay? But if you don't have time, you know, if there is no problem, you know, if you're a want to sell, I promise I can spell the word sell. If you're a want to sell, this is where you operate right here. On the other hand, if you're a need to sell and you've got a problem with the house, if there is a problem, if there's a problem with the house, that's when you want to call us, because we're going to take away the time factor. We're going to take away the headache factor, and you're going to sacrifice just a little bit of money. I mean, it's not going to be that bad, but I got to make a profit somewhere, and you understand that. I mean, you're calling somebody who buys houses for profit. So I got to make money somewhere, but what you're getting with me is somebody who can solve a problem that they may not be able to solve. I got a lot of tools in the toolbox. We don't just pay cash for houses. We can take over payments on houses. We can accelerate payments on houses. We can withhold payments on houses for a time. We've actually had people want us to not pay them for 2 years because they had too much income coming in. We have a lot of tools in the toolbox to solve whatever the problem is that you have with your house. Okay? Sometimes you've inherited a house. Unfortunately, there may be a divorce going on. Maybe there was a death in the family. Maybe there's repairs that need to be done. Maybe this thing is like, maybe you got a big old hole in the roof right here, you know, and you got rainwater coming in. Maybe you got some kind of problem with that house where this might not be the best situation for you. If that's the case, then call me. Now, and I'll be the first to tell you this if we meet. If you don't have a problem, then I'm probably not going to be the best option for you. Remember, if you're a want to sell, this is where you need to be. If you just want to sell your house, you don't have a time frame on it. You can just sell whenever. You don't need to make a certain amount of money out of it. You can just do it whenever. This is where you want to operate. But if you got a problem and you have a need to sell, this is when you want to call us. Okay? So thanks for watching. I hope that kind of helps you. I hope that explains a little bit about what we do. Thanks.